First question. When Lambo? When Lambo? When Binance?
Why Binance?
When Binance?
What do you mean?
When Moon? No, I'm just kidding. Thanks so much for coming. So I mean, I have so many questions to ask you, and we've been on the phone talking for like an hour. So we've got a very, very short amount of time, but I want to just to start by asking you, because your company has grown so fast, right? So can you tell us the backstory to how you guys first got going, and sort of how fast that you've grown today?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, basically, almost everybody in the crypto space probably had an idea to do an exchange at some point. So the idea isn't new,
Yep.
and I think a lot of people want to do exchanges, and they think exchanges make a lot of money.
Do they?
The bigger ones do.
Okay.
But a lot of them also lose a lot of money. So the idea wasn't new, but we had something that even from the very beginning, I was working in the exchange space for 20 years. I was doing exchange systems for about 21 years now. So it's not a overnight success. It's not a 1 year or 6 months thing. And when we started Binance, we had a system. I had a team of 30 people, a very small team. But we had some fundamentals going on. So it wasn't like, it wasn't what people portrayed. It's not like 6 months.
Yeah. So because you personally, right, you work for OKCoin in China, right? And is that where you sort of took what you'd done previously and sort of got into the sort of a crypto mindset before you got going with Binance?
Sure. I think the crypto Bitcoin came to me very naturally, very easily. So I think it was introduced to me by Bobby Lee, who was the CEO of BTC China. He and I used to play poker in my house, but for me, I lived in 4 different cities around the world before that. Actually lived, I had my PGP private key created in 1998. So I kind of understood the public asymmetric encryption.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I just understood it. And it was a conference that changed me really. It was a conference in December in Las Vegas, 2013. After that conference, I just said, okay, I'm going to quit my job, go into this full time.
So you did. And so today, like, what sort of size are you as a business? Like, what's the sort of volume of trading that you guys do on a daily basis?
So right now, I think it averages somewhere around $1 billion daily trading volume.
Wow.
So at peak we were 10, and now we're kind of sometimes it's 800 million, sometimes 1.5 billion. So yeah, it just fluctuates.
That's kind of big, right?
It's
pretty big.
big.
And so I mean, you guys are quite interesting, because most other companies, if I ask them like how much money do you make, what kind of how profitable are you, they'll sort of say, oh, we're not going to talk about that. But you guys actually do, right? Oh,
we have to, because as part of our white paper, we committed to burn 20% of the profits every quarter, and that's a public blockchain event. So people can calculate that very easily. So we just have to be public about it.
And so what's the most recent burn that you guys did? What sort of size?
So on April 14th, we burned $30 million equivalent of coins.
30 million?
Yeah, so that equivalents to 20% of our previous quarter's profits.
Okay.
So 150 million.
Per month?
No. Profit in
per month?
In a quarter. I
mean, that's pretty big. And so you guys actually, so as a business, you've been going under a year, right? Or is it a year now-ish?
That was our 3rd quarter.
So how do you grow so big so fast? That's insane, right?
Well, I think there's a couple of different factors contributing to it.
Yeah.
I think blockchain itself is probably the biggest contribution factor. I think we're probably one of the companies in all of human history that started this internationally.
Right.
We have users from 180 countries from around the world.
Yeah.
We don't take fiat, which makes our users more spread globally. So everybody can transact, everybody can deposit and withdraw on the blockchain.
Right.
And when you can grow in 180 countries simultaneously, you grow faster. And we had the advantage, of course, of the internet, of everything else that was built up.
Sure.
So, and we also had a lot of help from the ICO. So, but I think many other companies has the advantage of internet. We had the advantage of the blockchain. I think this is what shows the power of the blockchain. If you're a blockchain company, you can grow this fast.
So what was the first moment that you were doing this when you realized like you're actually pretty sort of big?
Actually, so before the ICO started, I was a little bit shaky about doing the ICO. So I actually before my own ICO, I've never
your ICO, right? To
Yeah.
make your own coin, BNB.
Yes.
Right?
So before that, I've never participated in another ICO. I've never bought another ICO. I literally don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
So before starting my own ICO, I was a little bit shaky. But as soon as it started, I knew it was gonna. The demand was so high. I knew we were onto something.
Yeah. So I mean most tokens that are out there. So companies, they do ICOs and they try and get they try to go to a big exchange like you guys. I mean, and I've heard all these rumors that you have to pay X amount to get into Binance. What do you have to pay to be listed on Binance?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. So we believe in free market. So basically, as part of the listing form, the projects tell us what they want to pay, and they can write it down from $100 million to zero.
What's the normal kind of fee that you'd expect per listing?
It's usually somewhere around a couple $100,000.
And in terms of like I'm just curious, like what kind of work do you do to vet these tokens? Because I mean, once they get on your exchange, they just go boom, right? They go so high. So how do you work to sort of how do you spot the ones that aren't so good? And also, how do you keep the fact that it's going to be on your exchange quiet? Because I mean, if I was working at your company and I told another person like this is going to be on Binance in like 2 days, we could easily do some kind of odd stuff, right? But, so what do you do to keep that internal?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways, and I'll tell you how we do it. So first of all, about reviewing projects. So we have a very small dedicated team reviewing different projects that apply. And we look for very basic stuff. We look for the founding team. We look for if they have previous history. So guys who have done successful stuff in the past usually are not going to run away.
Right.
Capability, we don't care as much, but history is important. We look for a product that it already exists. If they have a product already, then it's a lot safer for us to list. If they just have a concept, which a lot of the ICO papers are, then it's a much higher risk. And if they have a product, we look for a number of users. So if they have a real user base, anything that's used have utility, have value. So those things three things are very, very basic. We don't have hard numbers. We don't say, look, in your Telegram group, you have to have 10,000 people. Because the minute we publish that metric, people are going to engineer it.
Game it, yeah, for sure.
So in terms of keeping secret, we just look for people who are very passionate about what they do. So on our listing team, almost all the team members joined by reaching out to me directly, and I offer them a salary which was about 70 to 80% of their previous salary, and they all joined.
Why is that?
Because they believe in the mission.
Okay.
Right. So they want to join Binance. They want to do something that's meaningful. But in the end, we give them bonuses, which way more than make up for it.
So you underpay them, and
Yeah.
but I mean, if someone's underpaid and they know that this token's going to go onto Binance, is there not a risk that they might say to other people?
They could. It's very obvious.
Word out.
If they do that, it's very obvious. Because we look at when the price go up and when we make the announcements and to when that we start trading. It will be very apparent if that happened more often. Yeah.
Okay. And you haven't yet fired anyone for doing that, have you?
No, we have not fired anybody for misconduct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it gets interesting because you guys have a big fund, right? So you have a $1 billion fund, but it's in your token, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? Like what kind of projects are you investing in? How are you doing that?
Sure. So the $1 billion doesn't come all from us ourselves.
Okay.
So we probably contribute to somewhere between 10 to 20% of it. But when Binance invests in a project, everybody else rushes in. Right. So we're working with a group of other funds in the industry that will also participate when we invest. For the projects we invest in, we actually don't want to be the major shareholders. We want to help the other projects grow. We don't want to control those projects. We don't know what they do. We're only experts in what we do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's the kind of focus that you guys have? Any particular type of company that you're looking for or idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So the type of projects we like are blockchain infrastructure projects. So anything that can help the blockchain infrastructure, the ecosystem grow. So faster blockchains, safer wallets, easier to use wallets, anything that's related to this industry. And we particularly like teams who are very technical, but potentially weak on marketing and or finance.
Right.
So fundraising, because once we participate, if Binance participates in any project, they will never have to worry about money.
Right. Hard life. Okay. And these days, where are you based? Like, where do you live, apart from on a plane?
Right.
Seems, right.
So that's one of the tougher questions for me to answer usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of traditional concepts which doesn't apply to our industry. Where you're based, where's your headquarters, where's your bank account? We don't have a lot of those.
Where's the money?
The money is in a wallet somewhere, and so yeah, I spent quite a lot of time in Malta for the last couple of months.
Right.
And I still spend a lot of time in Asia. So yeah.
So you guys were in Hong Kong first, right?
We had a company
initially in Hong Kong, then in Tokyo, right?
Yes, we had a thing in Tokyo. Yeah.
Well, is it wrong or?
Well, we rented an office in Tokyo. We never really got to use it.
Where were you then? Okay, so you were kind of in Hong Kong, kind of in Tokyo-ish, like kind of.
Yeah.
And Vitalik was at your house. You were saying, right, in Tokyo before.
So in 2015.
Surely you were there if you have a house and he was there, right?
Well, that was in 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in 2015, in the summer, when Vitalik came over to Tokyo, he stayed at my place.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you were actually there, right, in Japan?
Yes, I was there. He was
at some point.
Son.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Malta, right?
Yeah.
Why the big, what's with the sort of changing of locations? Why Malta?
Yeah, I mean, but what's so different about it? It's just one Earth.
Well, because people always. Fair enough. Nice place too, right?
Yeah.
In Japan, so in Japan, like I always thought that like it was a great place to go because they have, they have rules that they're trying to bring, crypto people over, get them working within the law like legally,
yeah.
And yet you guys were sort of there and then you sort of went. Why was that? Was it because you didn't want to be legal, or you couldn't be legal, or
Okay.
or Malta's just a great place to be, or it doesn't really matter where you are?
Yeah, so what happened in Japan is 2017 April, Japan is one of the earliest Asian countries that legally recognized Bitcoin as a currency.
Yeah.
So you can see between April and October of 2017, all the Japanese crypto exchanges are among the top 10 in the world on the rankings. But I think in October 2017, they started asking all these exchanges to register, and they also made specific rules about what they can and cannot do. The rules, if you call them legal or illegal or laws, they're quite strict.
Okay.
Well, they're quite limited.
What kind of rules? Like what kind of?
Well, for example, in order to list a coin, you have to get their FSA approval.
Okay.
So the government usually works much slower than we do. So we list a coin almost every other day.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, how many coins do you have at the moment?
We have about 150-ish coins.
Okay.
So we have about 400 different trading pairs.
Right.
I think for our business, if we get FSA approval, like typically they could take a month or 2 months.
Right, for 150 tokens, it's going to be
I think it's going to take us much longer. So we said, well, we want to be legal. We never want to be illegal. That's for sure. So then we don't want to be there, because that's the rules there. That's the law there.
Okay.
What's interesting about law or rules are they are different from different jurisdictions. So in Malta, we're completely legal. So yeah, we want to be legal.
Okay, and you also you're also going to think about doing fiat too, right? This is a new thing that's you've talked about.
Yeah.
Out of Malta.
Well, actually, out of multiple places, hopefully. So now, when we first started doing crypto to crypto, there's 2 other big exchanges doing it. And we're one of the first ones in Asia. We have the Asian languages. We support 10 different languages now. We are mobile. We support everything else other than just web. So when we first started, people said, okay, you should do fiat. Fiat is our bigger market. But I think now crypto is we're relatively decent sized in crypto.
Pretty big, I would say, actually.
Yes. So now we want to open up the bridges for people to come from fiat to crypto. Because right now we rely on other people to exchange from fiat to crypto and then to us. So we want to make those bridges. We want to make those bridges as wide as possible.
Okay. have a drink. You've got a bad throat, right? So that's why you're having it. Okay. And just so in terms of the focus for that, though, so Fiat would be what markets, like Europe, US is possible for you guys, or?
I think US is possible, but it's not our primary target.
Right.
I think basically Coinbase and Gemini and a bunch of others are targeting that market. Mm-hmm. It's a huge market. I think it's a very high profit market. But I think other people are there. I think in terms of regulatory relationships or compliance or experience, they're stronger than us in that market.
Yeah.
So, and for me personally, I always like to chase I always like to what they call, I guess you can call it blue ocean strategy. The world is small, but the world is also quite big.
Yeah, so where else have you been, right?
So
Bermuda,
Africa. Yeah.
Why those places?
Those are fun places. So for example, Africa has 1.2 billion people, and they're very nice. It is underdeveloped. It poses a lot of challenges. But I think personally for me, like if I'm 70 years old and I look back on my life and I know I've helped 1.2 billion people just a little bit, I'll be pretty happy. Right? That's a pretty big achievement if I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try.
I mean, the other side of that is people might think.
Thank you.
I think there's some question, like if you go to these countries, and obviously they want investment in their economy, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of deal do you strike with them? There's like a very good tax deal for you guys. You get to be legal in certain countries that are easier to be legal in. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, I think so. I think most countries are looking for investments, and we are willing to invest. So I think.
But I mean, do you go after countries where it's easier, where they will want someone coming in to offer jobs, economy boost, right?
Yeah. So basically, right now there's a lot of countries who want us to go there. And
How many countries want you to go there?
I think I've talked to about 20 to 25 countries.
Wow, and that's mainly Africa or all over the place?
They're all over the world, and I only talk to them via invitation. So I don't go chase, I don't go apply or find somebody to networking to the president.
Right.
I think I've openly shared photos with 4 presidents I think they all happened about a month ago, within a 4-week period. So it's kind of nice to meet 4 head of states within like 30 days. But there's a lot more I met. We have now publicized. So yeah.
Like who? You want to talk about that? Or?
Actually, I prefer not to release the names. And coming due time, we will. We're very sensitive about it.
But I mean, is there an ethical issue though? If you're always picking the countries where you can get a really good rate of tax, and that's okay?
Actually, so honestly, we haven't really asked for a tax rebate ever. But I think even if it did, I don't think there's anything unethical about it. Some countries don't want us to be there. Why do we want to squeeze in there?
Yeah.
Some countries, we think their rules are too strict and we don't want to be there. That's fine. Some countries want us to be there and we want to be there. I mean, why not, right?
So just in terms of let's say the countries that you're looking at now, those 3, there's 2 in Africa, Bermuda 2, right? What do you say that you can bring? Like how many jobs can you create? How much can you add to the businesses there?
So for every country is a little bit different. Some countries have more talent on tech. Right. Some countries have more talent on KYC, compliance, finance. So every country slightly. Some countries are stronger in customer support. So we try to find what's good locally. But I think I foresee. So if we look at another company who can generate the kind of revenues and profits we can, they're probably 100 times bigger or more than what we are right now.
Right.
So I think we can easily grow another, 5,000, 10,000 people. Just the problem is we can't grow that fast because we can't manage that many people so quickly. so the internal as a cell, you can only grow so quickly. So that's our own growth rate is our own limitation.
Yeah, and so the idea for you guys, so you're keen to help grow other companies here too, like in Africa and in other places too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we want to help the industry grow. So it's not just about Binance. So the way I view it is. As long as we're playing a relatively key part in this industry, when the industry gets bigger, we will benefit tremendously.
Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, unfortunately, we're out of time because there's so much more we could talk about. But thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.